Credentials and security. Now, if you really look at SMTP configuration, I'm reviewing a node, SMTP. When you set up an SMTP node, it's a very basic node. That's why I'm explaining it. The SMTP node, it will just take an email and send email to people, and you configure that SMTP node using this kind of configuration, right? You put your information there and configure it. Now, when you enter the password, you need to be careful about it. You look at my credentials management software product, and it says how to use the vault to store the password and how to operate it. Now, in this video, I want to give you more details about how to store the password and how to retrieve and things like this. So, as you can see, password is here. As you can see, your credential security is here, and there are three type of credentials supported in this particular Gmail email. So whenever you send an email, for example, AWS SES or Grid, SendGrid, so we integrate with the SendGrid and AWS SES, correct? So you can send email using SES or AWS, or you can send email using SMTP directly using Google and things like this, or you can use Auth2 for Gmail. So Gmail uses Auth2 record, SCS uses API record, and regular SMTP uses password. So we have added only these type of nodes support, so credential supported for email. Now in AI agent, you may have a seriously different type of supports, right? So every node will have decide its own support. Now if you go to credential security, as you can see, it uses this is the way it operates. Some more specific about how the encryption decryption happens, and the tenant will decide which type of credentials will be used. Now there are sometimes you can use named credentials. For example, global credentials such as let's say you want to integrate with a global email provider, and you always use a global credential, and company every application can just call the credentials by name and start using it. And these credentials need to be global in nature. There are some personal credentials also. Personal credentials can only be used by that person, nobody else can use it. So that's a settings there is personal. Anyway, so this is a high level idea, and we reviewed how to configure this. Click on configure and click on credentials and add, uh, pick from an existing credentials, or create a new credential here, and that's how you use it. Now getting back to some of the review components about credentials. Now these are the credentials which are, this is the actual source code. These are the credential type of credentials we are currently supporting. API key, that means when you want to connect to another a company, for example, let's say Salesforce, what you do is you connect to Salesforce, and the Salesforce will ask you for a API key. It's just a key that you store somewhere and you need to use it. So that's something that we use. OAuth version 2 is the next one we support. We support basic authentication, user ID and password. We use a bearer token, right? Bearer token is a JWT token that you can send with your request. So basically, the way it works is either the company will give you a token when you register an account with, let's say you want to register with a company called AP5. The AP5 is or any company that you want to connect with. You log into them and ask them for a key, and typically they give API key, but they sometimes give you a bearer token key, and you take the token key, put it here, and start using it. Bearer token key is a different approach altogether. It has got its own cons and pros and cons. The other option is database. You can connect to a connection string here. That's what the database means. We don't use that often. We use a password instead. The basic authentication we use, and we put the password there, and a connection string comes from the configuration, and we take the connection string and replace the password in it, and use it. That's a typical option we do. And you can support n number of database connection strings, right? You, in an example of a copy data from one database to another database, you need the source database connection string, you need the destination database connection string. So that means the server needs two credentials. So every credential that you by default add is called primary credentials, and the word primary is used to recognize it, and primary is also in the name field in it. So you use that as a primary for everything, but sometimes you need a secondary connection string. So in that case, you call it destination connection string, whatever you call, that will be a new credential, that credential type, and that credential type will have its own identification. Anyway, crypto wallets, if you have a MetaMask wallet on things like that, if you support that, then API key, these are viewers, that these are editors. These are the things that we support now. Now, with the combination of these five, we can actually support almost 99% of the use cases for credentials, and which is supported. Now, sometimes you have seen, to capture the credentials from the user, you use a login screen. Every company has their own login screen. For example, if you want to capture certain information from Google, Google will tell you, Google will have its own UI, and using that, we pop up that UI and you capture the information, store it in. But those are details. But this is how the credentials are taken care of. Anyway, that's one thing. From a .NET code point, right? Well, let's see the SMTP, how it works. SMTP node. This is an obsolete code base, so it may not be the right one. I don't want to show the correct database. So this is an API integration, right? This is a huge code base for API. And in API integration, there's API trigger. That means web call. The calls coming back from API. Let me check if it is certified already. Yeah, it's pending. It's not certified. So, so as you can see in the credentials, it's empty. It's not certified. Let me take a step here. As you can see, these are the information that we are passing into API. And when this information is passed into API, at one point we call credential system and get the API token, right? We are typically all other, this is the whole API code base. In this API code base, as you can see, a lot of service calls and all those things happens here. As you can see, credentials are picked up by the node typically at a point where at the last minute it will go and pick up the credentials using a standard approach, which I just showed you. So resolve API token, this will go hit the vault. And how it works is, if I go here, you see that it takes the primary value, API token, and it returns the API token. That's why resolve API token means. We should have renamed it to resolve primary API token. Now there is an option to, when you do the primary, what we are doing is we are calling primary and sending that and reading primary. Now you can also send some other alias, secondary, destination, source. So it will give you that, right? That's the whole idea. So everything has got a primary and secondary. Most of the nodes have got only one. Only some nodes will have two or three. So those things can be easily taken care of by using calling this. That the node developer will know this, node developer will call this. Now in API, there is something called webhook. That means it comes back from the data from the customers. So in this case, we are using the same approach, the API resolve, because this node has only one node. So we put the webhook secret also into the password and call that as is. So there is the existing credential infrastructure will take care of this. All you need to do is go to the credentials and in the UI and read the data. That's all you need to do. It will come automatically. For example, when you click on config, when you go to credentials, this is the primary. So whatever you choose here is the primary. And any node which has got only single node, you need to use this primary. If the node has got more than one, you will see something called credentials here. You click on it, you can add more secondary territory credential IDs here. That's a way it operates. You don't see credentials here because this is an old view. The new view, you would see additional credentials here. So you can click on it and add additional credentials. A node engineer can decide how many credentials they need. Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, everyone.